Good morning, everybody, and thank you so much for joining. And welcome to another edition of the Spin Zone. It is your host, Spin Doc, here, and we have a new week and more new money to get at. So that's what we're going to do today. We got three pitchers to cover for you today, and we got another NFL training camp update. It's actually a really good card today. So a whole bunch of stuff happening. So we will get right into it. Like I said, we got three pitchers to cover today. I got charts for all of them, but if there is one that we do not cover, please do feel free to shout it out in the chat. And let me know, and we'll give you my quick overview at the end. There's already a few of them, like for some days with pretty stacked cards, where I assume that there's going to be two or three other ones that people are going to want to talk about. So, I mean, I already have kind of the work done on most of them anyway. But this show is brought to you on behalf of the Daily Bread Network on YouTube. Please do subscribe for all of our content. Follow me at SpinDoc Sports. Like, share the video. We do appreciate all the love. So no shows over the weekend, so not really a whole lot to draw back on from what we talked about then, because it's been a few days. So let's just get right into it, and we'll talk about our first pitcher for the evening. And we have Spencer Strider. The first guy for the night. Spencer Strider, the righty, is striking guys out at a 26.1% clip, walking guys at a 9.2% clip. He goes to Miami tonight, which, even though these two teams are in the same division, Strider actually has not faced virtually anybody in this lineup, and we get, I don't want to say a trap line, but we get a line, a very line for Spencer Strider of 5.5 against this Marlins team. Now, it's a heavily juiced 5.5, and I would expect at some point, at least some books will move it to a 6.5 heavily juiced towards the under, but that's where it opened at. Now, let's break this one down, because do I think this line is a trap? No. But do I think that there are some pitfalls with it? Yes, absolutely. So Strider himself, for over his last 10 starts, is 6-4 to this number, meaning hitting 6+. Now, he has no record at a 5.5 over those last 10 starts, because he's never been set there. He's been 6.5 or more. So Strider gets dropped. Now, when you look at his most recent history, you kind of get it, because he hasn't had a whole lot of success. In his last four, he has only hit this number one time, and that was against the Brewers, where he barely hit it. Now, what I will say, though, is that he has been playing against a bunch of teams that have one thing in common, is that they don't chase. And with Strider, as you can see, he only spends 46.5% of his time in the zone. You combine that with the fact that his four-seam fastball, whereas it usually averages 98 to 99, it's only been in that 95 to 97 range. He can run it up to 98, 99 a few times, but it's not a regular thing. So when you have that, and your fastball and your slider account for almost 80 to 85% of your pitches, and your four-seam fastball generates a whiff rate under 16%, which pitcher average is about 21 to 22, and hitter whiff rate to all four-seam fastballs, including relievers, et cetera, is just a touch above that. You can see where Strider becomes basically a one-pitch pitcher with the slider, and his slider typically runs out of the zone, and runs significantly out of the zone. So if you're not going to chase, then Strider has to rely on getting you with his fastball. Now, these teams that he's missed against, meaning the White Sox, the Mets, and the Royals, all three of them in their lineups that day had guys who had lower whiff percentages to a fastball and four or less hitters who chase. And even of the guys that chased, a lot of them did have higher than average chase contact. So with this in mind, we look at this Marlins lineup that is projected to be 4 lefties and 5 righties. And what do we see? We see a pretty big high-low split here because we have Marcy, Hicks, Edwards, and Hernandez, none of whom chase anywhere close to league average. So they actually have, they actually can take too many pitches, but they don't chase at all. You go down and you see Johnston, Wagaman, and Sonoja all chase well above league average, as does Ramirez. So you have those 4 guys right off the bat that are probably going to be at least a decent candidate to strike out against Spencer Strider because of how often that they chase. Now, Sonoja at the bottom does have a very, very good chase contact rate. He actually has a very good contact rate, period. So I can't say that for certain that he will strike out. I can say that it's probably more likely than not that for sure Ramirez will, for sure Wagaman will. Johnston is a younger guy and chases a ton, so it's probably a safe bet that he will. But that gets me 3. Then I go to the rest of the lineup, and I don't see a whole lot of chase outside of, I guess, Otto Lopez is basically league average, but he has good chase contact and also has a very, very low whiff percentage to a 4-seam fastball and a decent low whiff percentage to a slider as well, which is why I could only put him down for a half. So I think this line is right. I really do. I see 6 for Strider. I'm not sure that I see anything higher. So if this thing goes to a 6.5, don't get starry-eyed by the opponent and want to pump the over here, because this is not the Spencer Strider that you have been seeing in past years or in past iterations. What you're seeing is a guy that has a decent fastball. Like I've talked about guys, like Mackenzie Gore, guys like that they have a decent fastball, and every now and then they can get a whiff off of it. But when you can't run it up to 98, 99, and your pitches that are out of the zone, which is 6% under the average, are in an area where, unless guys are chasers, they're very easy to take, you can rack up your pitch count really, really quickly. That's what the White Sox did. The White Sox just sat and just would not swing at that early slider. Strider put himself in hitters counts, and then that meant that he had to throw fastballs, and his fastball was at 95 to 97. 95 to 97 is a decent fastball. It's not overpowering. When Strider could use his 4-seamer as an out pitch, and like over the past few seasons, he would run it up to 98, 99. And there's another guy going today, like, for example, DeGrom or Skubal, who they can run theirs up to 99, 100, and it can be used as an out pitch, but 95 to 97 can't. And so Strider doesn't throw his curve that often either. So really, it turns him into almost a 1.5 pitch pitcher. And it makes a guy that looks very daunting at first look rather human. If you can't set up that fastball. So the teams that don't strike out to Strider are the guys that don't chase. And we have a pretty even mix of chasers versus non-chasers in this lineup. So let's just even say he gets the 4 chasers: Ramirez, Johnston, Wagaman, Sonoja. Otto Lopez is a 50-50 shot, and then you would think that there would be a lower chance of him getting Edwards, Marcy, and Hicks. And that brings it down to Hernandez. Hernandez's contact metrics certainly suggest that he will strike out. His chase suggests that Strider might have a few plate appearances against him where he puts himself in hitters' counts, which, as you can see in the bottom right, his strikeout percentage goes way down when he gets behind, from 41.5 to 14.2%. So all of this adds up to, I think that 6 is the right number. I really do. I do see that DraftKings has moved it to a 6.5 already. We have a minus 150 on the under. My only problem here is, before anybody was wondering, like, well, then take the under if it's at 6.5. It depends on the lineup that the Marlins run out here, because Marlins have obviously packed it in for the season. They got a bunch of kids going here, and you don't know what lineup is going to be in and in what iteration. I think I was looking, I didn't see it earlier this morning, but they might have it up now. A walks prop for Strider, because when he walks two or more guys, and yeah, it is up two at -130. Two or more walks makes it hard for him to reach those high strikeout numbers. So I think that this is exactly right. And I think that I think if you're playing this, I don't know if I would risk the juice on this at the over 5.5. I would probably want to combine it with something to reduce the juice, just because if you're betting it now and the Marlins run out a few more guys that don't chase, I mean, there are worlds where Strider only gets 5 against this team, as strange as it sounds, and it has to do with the chase. If they're going to run 4 chasers or less, it's kind of the same formula that we use on Jack Flaherty, and you saw it yesterday with Kansas City. If you don't chase, Jack can't strike you out. It's just that simple. Strider has become a similar type of pitcher with just a little bit better fastball. So that's my take on Spencer Strider. And we have Cover Kings in the house. Welcome in. Who wants 1 unit on Bryce Miller under 3.5 out in San Diego? Mom Who Bets in the house. Good, happy Monday and good morning. Thank you for being here. And Cover King saying he's in his head. Strider will be fine going into 2026. I hope he is. I hope he is. I hope that he uses it to fully heal too, and maybe even change something in his mechanics to get that extra 1 to 2 miles an hour on his fastball. Because if not, he's probably going to have to either refine his curve more to be throwing it to be a true 3-pitch pitcher, or he's probably going to have to add like a true changeup or even a splitter. That's what that the splitter is actually a pitch that a lot of guys who used to have velo, had some injury issues, don't have the exact velo that they used to have. That's what a lot of them do, is they add a splitter, because a splitter like Kevin Gausman has would actually play really well with the type of pitch mix that Strider throws, especially with his slider that runs low. So we'll see what he does, but for the rest of this season, there's not a whole lot you can change, and the Braves probably aren't going to the playoffs anyway. So my thought is, if you can't get the velo back, if you can't touch 98, 99 on the regular, then I would, if I were them, I would look to add either a splitter or almost like a similar type of like low changeup that Scooble throws, because and throw it with regularity, because I know he has thrown changeups before, but not with regularity. It's really just 4-seamer slider. So he's going to have to add a few pitches if he can't get that velo back, if he wants to maintain as a dominant starter. And I would say Strider hit 6 Ks, but I wouldn't expect anything higher than 7. I honestly don't expect anything higher than 6. I think that 6 is the right number. You know, it might even be worth a few dollars on to say, like, for books that offer it 6 exactly, which you can probably get at like plus 300. Now, obviously, don't put a bag on that, because you're betting on one result and a lot can happen. But man, now if the Marlins run out 2 or 3 more chasers, guys that chase way more than Edwards, Marcy, Hicks, and Hernandez do, then it becomes a much different proposition. So if you replace any one of those 4, Edwards, Marcy, Hicks, or Hernandez, with somebody who chases at league average or above, and or has chase contact at league average or below, it becomes a much, much easier pill to swallow to get 6 and possibly even 7. But this is the first time Strider's been at this line all year. And as I've told you all season, I trust that the companies that have the $1 billion and the multi-million dollar predictive algorithms know what they're doing. And this line is not oh my God, what are the books doing? The books messed up. That's get that out of your head, because that's not the way that it works. So that would be Strider. All right. We'll move on, and we will move on to, oh my, this ought to be fun. We will move on to Tarek Skubal. Tarek Skubal, the lefty. You know Tarek Skubal, striking guys out at a bazillion percent, doesn't walk anybody. The man looks superhuman this year. He gets the athletics, and the line is exactly what you'd expect with Tarek Skubal going to go against the athletics. 8.5. There were some 7.5s out there late last night. Those are long gone. Well, actually, no, I take that back. Is there still a 7.5? No, there is not. Everybody's at an 8.5. There were a few early this morning, but that's about it. So Tarek Skubal going out to the West Coast for a road start against a team where on paper he should dominate. First things first, it's Tarek Skubal, so under just isn't an option. So we'll take that off the table. So now we have to talk about, can we get to the over, or can we, do we drop him down and put him with something or whatever? The books aren't dumb. They know this is going to be one of the most popular lines of the day. They know that all the trendy cappers out there are going to be saying ladder it to 10, 15, 38, whatever. I'm being facetious, but you get my point, is that you see Tarek Skubal against the A's, and your only capping is it's Tarek Skubal. And he's averaging 8 strikeouts a game over his last 10 and for the season. So how could he not get 9 here? Well, let's take a look at the land. And remember, I run these charts before I look at any line, and I do it on purpose because I don't want to be influenced, and I want to compare it against the books. And it's actually a really good comparative tool. So we break this lineup down, and the Athletics are looking to run 2 lefties and 7 righties. Now, my guess is they'll probably run Kurtz and Soderstrom as lefties. I would not be surprised, even though Kurtz is batting up in the lineup, I would not be surprised if he's dropped down a little bit. I would also not be surprised if Soderstrom has dropped down. But the A's have a lot of different lineup combinations that they can use because they're not going to the playoffs either. So they're playing a bunch of young kids. So, if this is the actual lineup that they run, you can see that the top 2, Shea Langoliers and Nick Kurtz, have a combined 8 strikeouts and 12 plate appearances. So that literally can be 4. If it was in Detroit, I could say it could even be 5, but that can be 4 strikeouts right there. Now, you go down the rest of the lineup, and with Tarek Skubal, I always look at zone swing and zone contact. 2 reasons behind this. Number one is Skubal spends 55.3% of his time in the zone. That is about 6 or 7% above MLB average. And as I've said many times on here before, his zone contact allowed is absolutely elite. That's what happens when you have 99 to 100 fastball up, and then you have 86 to 89 changeup down. You change sight lines up, down, and you change speeds where the hitter has to react, and you become virtually unhittable. And then every now and then, once they finally caught up to that, oh, here's a slider in the 4 o'clock range on our clock at 86 that looks like a changeup. I mean, it's Tarek Skubal, but so he's dominant. I'm just trying to give you a little perspective on why he's so dominant. So you have the 4-seamer and you have the changeup, which are his primary pitches, both of which run very, very typically in the zone. So I'm looking for zone swing and I'm looking for zone contact. So for this lineup, we do have 5 guys that are under league average in zone contact. We also have 2 guys in Kurtz and in Harris who take a lot of pitches in the zone. You just don't want to do that to this man. You really don't, because when Tarek Skubal gets ahead of you, he strikes you out almost 46%. When Tarek Skubal gets you 0-2, it's over 52. So basically every hitter that he gets down 0-2, 1-2, which is a good chunk of them, over half of them strike out. That's the best mark in baseball, and it's obviously why he's locked in a Cy Young race with Garrett Crochet. So you can't take pitches in the zone. Nick Kurtz takes pitches in the zone. That's why he struck out 2 out of 3 times. Harris hasn't faced him yet and does take pitches in the zone. I put a 0.75 because his chase contact is good and he doesn't chase that much, but that realistically could be a 1. But even still, with that, we're still only looking at about, by the math, 7.5 to 8. Now, the way the line is set right now with a minus 154, minus 150, somewhere in that area, it says in most scenarios he gets 8 here. Most scenarios he gets 8. And if you bump Harris up from a 0.75 to a 7.5 to a 1 full, you get to 7.5, which gets you to either 7 or 8. What that also relies on is that he's probably going to have to get Langeliers, Kurtz, or Thomas twice. Now, that very easily can happen. And if you look at their strikeout props, the numbers say that can easily happen because of their horrific contact metrics. Now, the one that's a little puzzling is Rooker, because you look at Rooker and he swings often in the zone. He swings way above league average. His zone contact is under league average. So you would think he would be a big-time strikeout candidate to Tarik Skubal. Past history says not so. 4 strikeouts in 18 plate appearances. That's 22.2% is a very pedestrian number. So part of that reason is that, and part of the reason why I'm even a little nervous about Thomas being a multiple strikeout candidate, even though the contact numbers suggest it, is guys that swing aggressively in the zone. Maybe they strike out the first time through against Skubal, but the second time through and the third time through, they make contact. And for Tarik Skubal to hit 9 strikeouts in this game, he's got to get one guy twice at least. He probably has to get 2 or 3 guys twice. So let's look at who the candidates are. Shea Langeliers for sure would be. I just go by RotoWire projected lineups. I would be very, very surprised if they run Langeliers, Kurtz 1-2. I wouldn't be surprised if both are in the lineup, but to run them 1-2 when you have a 75% strikeout rate against Tarik Skubal and you have the exact kind of metrics for a guy that he strikes out, yeah, that doesn't add up. So if they're going to run this projected lineup, though, you have to look at who's a multiple strikeout candidate, because it is so rare to see a pitcher get 9 strikeouts and literally strike out every single guy in the lineup one time. Usually doesn't happen. You usually need a guy to get that many. You either need multiple guys to go down 2 times, or you need one guy to just have an absolute horrific day and strike, like say, face him 3 times and strike out 3 times. Those are your usual only 2 paths to 9. So when I look at this lineup and compare to the past history, guys that I don't see at all as projected multiple K guys: Rooker, Wilson, probably not Hernandez, and probably not McIver. I see them all as potentially being 1 strikeout candidates, but not 2. So you've taken out half the lineup. Now, of the guys that are left, Langeliers and Kurtz would be the easy ones. So we got to see where they're going to bat. At the bottom, Harris possibly could be. The problem then becomes, is he going to go deep enough to face this guy 3 times? I've said this over and over again. It's very rare that a pitcher puts up a big strikeout number and faces a guy twice, say at the bottom of the lineup, and gets him both times. Like it happens, but it's rare, and it's not something you should be regularly counting on. So my point here is that there's only 2 or 3 guys in this lineup that I see as being decent candidates for multiple strikeouts. And that's why where I go is that I think that 8 is very, very doable. So I would much rather pull Tarik Skubal down to 8 and put him with something else. What I'd also rather do is, before the juice gets out of control, because the public and the universe is going to be on him and for his over, is I would rather pull him down to 8 and then either pair him with something or bet just 1 unit straight on the 8 and take whatever payout that happens to be. That would be how I play Skubal. Now, if the Athletics lineup comes out and we get a few higher contact guys up top. And even if we get Langoliers and Kurtz lower or even out, we get Thomas, for example, out. Like some of their guys out, eight. Eight is probably the max that we're looking at here. And also the other piece with this one is that while I don't expect that, like, there's been no official word on limiting innings or anything like that, this is a game that the Tigers can probably win without needing a superhuman effort from Tarek Skubal. The Athletics obviously are better than they have been, but nowhere near a playoff team. So the other thing you have to watch for, and this is why these high lines are so dangerous, it can be, is that literally nothing can go wrong for it to hit. It doesn't even matter if it's Tarek Skubal. Doesn't even matter if it's Zach Wheeler, Godspeed on his recovery. But it doesn't make a difference who it is. Like, very little, if not nothing, can go wrong, because one long inning with only, say, one strikeout, you're fighting an uphill battle the rest of the way, or maybe even you're looking to chase a lower number to get to break even, and then that doesn't. It causes a whole bunch of issues. And so that's why on these mega lines, what I usually like doing is I usually like just either taking a half unit or less on the plus money number and just saying, if he hits it, great. If not, I'm not going to worry about it. Or I look to bring it down in some capacity, pair it with something so I can get even money or better. I'm not looking to pay super juice, or even on an 8. Go with an 8+, and then just put 1 unit on it straight up and don't pay any juice. That's an option as well. So you limit the risk in your wallet. But I'm not looking to pay crazy juice, and because, like, right now, Skubal is, for actual number of strikeouts, Skubal, if you want to go 8 on Skubal, it's -165. You can put just 1 unit right now on the 8, and you can just take the reduced payout. But I'm not looking to pay to risk 1.65 units for a guy in this spot on the road when I don't even know what this lineup's going to look like. So I'm not trying to dissuade anybody on Skubal. And as I said, under is never an option here. So don't even think about it or try. It's over or pass. Those are your only 2 choices here. So I'm just telling you, if you want to bet Skubal, that's what I would do. And Roger, actually, nope. See, Miss Chris reposted the stream. Thank you so much, Miss Chris. Appreciate you. And Roger saying caught Sheehan at -130 last night. Now it's -239. Good catch, Roger. Attaboy, for 5 strikeouts. Cover King saying Fanatics has Skubal 7.5, -150 if you want it. WTS Gaming reposted this stream. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you. And Berg in the house, longtime VIP member, saying Skubal could be the Skeens today and get a profit boost. Berg actually brings up a good point. And especially on days that are stacked for cards, or on days where very popular public pitchers, that being, well, Wheeler pre-injured, Wheeler before he went out, Skeens, Skubal, kid from Cincinnati is typically another one. Mizorowski is another one, but like ones that are getting all the hype, right? Guys that are getting all the hype. When you see them going and the major books are giving a profit boost, typically that should be your cue to run away. It actually happened with Skeens yesterday too, but that should be your cue to run away. I'm not saying you take the under, but you just leave it alone. So if your book is offering all kinds of easy ways and easy paths for you to, like, super boost Tarek Skubal, 8+ strikeouts, blah, 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 that can usually be a key to leave it alone. Now, can Skubal hit this? Of course he can. He's Tarek Skubal. He can strike out 11 or 12. I mean, if the lineup conditions were right, if he really wanted to, if the Tigers needed him to, he could. But very few of those things are in place tonight. And as I said before, the Tigers don't need Skubal to be superhuman to win this game. They don't even need him to be like supremely good. They need him to just pitch decent. They need him to just be normal Scooble. And normal Scooble is 7 or 8 strikeouts, which is exactly where the line is. So if your book's offering a profit boost, yeah, I 100% agree here. I typically try to stay away from all pitchers. Skeens was one exception yesterday. I thought that the value was too good on the number that we got. But normally, like 9 times out of 10, I see public pitchers that have a profit boost and I run far, far away because there's a reason why they're offering those profit boosts. And it's not because they lose money on them. Just keep that in mind. All right. We'll stop with Scooble and we will go to our last pitcher. And again, if there's other ones that I don't cover, please feel free to shout them out, put them in the chat, etc. I know there's a bunch of other guys going, but let's talk Hunter Green. Let's talk Hunter Green. The righty, since coming back, has been what you've been used to seeing with Hunter Green, and he's striking guys out at a 32.2% clip, walking guys at a 4.9% clip. He goes out to Dodger Stadium tonight with a line as of last night at 6.5 at -138, and a slightly plus money under 6.5. Okay, so first thing is you have to look past the opponent, because for all their glitz, all their glamour, all their stars, from a strikeout perspective, the Dodgers are very gettable. They have a number of hitters specifically at the top and at the bottom of their lineup that are very gettable. So we look at this lineup that projects to be 4 lefties and 5 righties, and with Hunter Green, he spends more time in the zone than Tarek Skubal does, 56.4. He's got a little bit higher zone contact, but still dominates, which is what happens when you have a 4-seam fastball that you can run up over 100, which he has been doing since he came back. The other thing with Hunter Green is, and this is just in general a tip for people, is that in a guy's first game back or first few games back, if you're going to get worried about will he be limited, will he have innings limitations or pitch limitations or blah, 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 is that you have to look at what his path to rehab was. Now, if he just went down and pitched a few, like, let's just say he just pitched a few simulated, like a simulated game and threw 50 pitches, okay, he's probably not going to get a full workload. But Hunter Green pitched 2 full rehab starts and threw, I think, close to 80, 85-ish pitches in his rehab starts, and then threw over 80 in his first start back. So you can assume that this will be, barring anything else happening, a full start for Hunter Green. But that's an easy way to tell if a guy's coming back, is just look for the news on him and look for what he did to rehab. So guys that typically do bullpen sessions or simulated games typically will be on a pitch count for at least their first start, sometimes 2, and they'll slowly ramp him up. So look however many pitches that he threw. Let's say it's like 50, 60. Then you can probably expect 70 to 75, and then 80 to 85, and so forth, assuming no setbacks. If a guy is throwing 80 to 85 pitches in actual games against actual competition, that tells you that he's probably going to come back and just be his normal self, which is what Hunter Green's doing. So we look at this Dodgers lineup, and because of the zone percentage and zone contact, we look at all of the zone stuff. So of this Dodgers team, we do have 5 of the 9 that don't swing or swing below average in the zone. Ohtani, Betts, Smith, Conforto, and Freeland. Actually 6 and Rojas. The only 3 that are above: Freddie, Teoscar, and Pegas. So right off the bat, you have an opportunity for Green, if he can pump strikes, which he has been since he's returned, is that he can get up on these hitters. Now, this is where I said that the Dodgers are gettable, because first of all, you have a pitcher that is at almost 50% when he gets ahead of hitters. You also have a pitcher who has a first strike percentage of 72.8%. That is one of the best marks in Major League Baseball among starters who qualify. As you can see right below it, league average is 61.1%. So Hunter Green being almost 11% above average, and you have 6 of 9 guys who can take in the zone. Then you look over and you see that 5 of the 9 hitters are under league average when it comes to zone contact. Now, there are 3 that are significantly above with Betts, Pegas, and Rojas. So you can't put any of them down for more than a half. But the other guys in the lineup, there are a few guys in this lineup that can very easily, even at home, even being in the Dodgers, can strike out twice to Hunter Green. You have Ohtani, you have Teoscar Hernandez, you even have, it's a smaller probability, but you even have Freddie, you have Freeland. All 4 of those guys, I'm not predicting it, but I'm saying all 4 of those guys can strike out multiple times. Because when I look at it, guys that I give a 1+ to, so like when I grade their Ks as a 1.25, I personally think that there's probably a 50% chance or better that they strike out twice. Guys that are a straight 1, I kind of break them down into 2 categories where, like, okay, you'll probably face him 3 times and I can see him getting him 1 time, or okay, he'll definitely get him 1 time and there's a possibility for 2. All 4 Dodgers guys that I just mentioned are the latter. So possibility for 2 from 4 different guys. Only 1 real true dead spot in Mookie Betts. Even though Will Smith is 0 for 6 against him, he takes a ton of pitches in the zone. Green has been absolutely dominant, even more so than previous years when he gets ahead of guys. So I couldn't put him as a dead spot, nor could I put Rojas as a dead spot because Green, well, he's gotten him once, but also he also takes pitches in the zone as well. So with only 1 dead spot and all of these potential guys who can strike out multiple times, is that to me, there are many paths to 7 here for Hunter Green if this is the lineup that the Dodgers run. So I don't really have a take on the total or like will they smack him around or anything like that. What I do know is that Hunter Green is probably going to throw between 90 and 100 pitches, and that will give him plenty of opportunities with how many strikes he throws, and especially how much this team takes in the zone. That gives them plenty of opportunities to get to 7. So this is a very, very clear look on the over here at Hunter Green. 7 for sure, depending on the lineup and how it's orchestrated. I might even want to take a small shot on 8+ because, like I said, for all their power, for all their talent, for all their everything, from a strikeout perspective, the Dodgers can be very gettable, and they're very gettable on 2 fronts. Number 1 is guys that hammer the zone because they take so much, and every time you take, your potential for strikeout against a pitcher like Green goes up exponentially. And the second piece is their whiff to a 4-seam fastball, more specifically heat with a 4-seam fastball. So this 4-seam fastball whiff rating is all 4-seamers. It doesn't break into like 96 or above, 97. But when you do break that down, you see that a number of these percentages go up. So you already have 3 guys with Hernandez, Conforto, and Ohtani that are worse than league average at whiffing to a 4-seam fastball. And that's a regular 4-seam fastball. That includes guys like junk ballers that throw like 92. So to heat, most of these numbers go up exponentially. So you have all of that in place. I am very high on Hunter Green tonight. As long as the line doesn't do anything janky or the lineup doesn't look vastly different than what this is, I want the over easily in this one. So we have a few comments, few people in the chat. We'll get to that in just a moment, and we'll talk about other look, sides, totals, etc. Let's see. We got Kid Keon in the house. Kid Keon, welcome in. Thank you for being here. Actually, those were 2 of them. I didn't know about Senga, but I assumed that people would ask about DeGrom and Sanchez. The line says that there's the potential if the Angels lineup cooperates, like if it's the projected, the line says that DeGrom could absolutely torch them. Absolutely torch them and get an ample number. I mean, I know you got 8 out there, but DeGrom has only been a 7.5 twice in his last 10, and once was against these same Angels. So he's been at a 6.5 and a 5.5 over his last 3 starts. So he gets the bump back up again, partially because of opponent. But the other thing is, this is the first time that his hits have been down at 3.5 in over his last 10 starts. It's actually been almost 3 months now since his hits have been at 3.5. And it's not a 3.5 like when somebody's hits gets adjusted from the normal 4.5 to 3.5, but it's super juiced to the over. I don't put too much weight in it because it's like, okay, over 3.5 is like minus 185. Okay, that's basically saying he's going to allow 4. You don't want to be underweight if you put on the under, if you put it there, a bunch of different reasons. DeGrom is at a bettable 3.5. Like and also it's juiced to the under 3.5. So this is the same team that got 7 hits against him out in Anaheim the last time that he started against them on July 28th. The other thing, they also, even though he struck him out a bunch, they also tagged him for 5 earned runs, and his earned runs is juiced at the under at 1.5. So 3.5, 1.5 juiced to the under is a combination you don't see very often for a pitcher. And usually what it means is they're going to go out there and absolutely shove. So like I said, I run these charts and pick these pitchers before lines come out, and DeGrom was actually, it was either going to be DeGrom or was going to be Strider. And so I figured DeGrom would be asked about, just like Strider would if we didn't talk about him. So that's why I wanted to have this ready. But the line says that DeGrom is going to absolutely shove tonight. Like I said, 3.5 and 1.5 for hits and earned runs juiced to the under is a combination for a guy that's projected to go 6+ innings or all around 6 innings. You don't see that combination very often. So I'm a big DeGrom fan tonight. Christopher Sanchez, I think, is set exactly where it should be. There's a decent pass history against the Mets, 26, 27%. I always also, whenever I bring up the lines and when I run them, I always try to guess what I think that they should be first, and then see how off I am. And this was exactly what I said it was going to be. Like before I even brought it up, I said I bet you 6.5 juice to the under with decent plus money on the over, and that's exactly what we got. A few of them, the other ones I was off on, but this one I knew they would do this. So you have a decent pass history. You have a guy with Sanchez who's hit 6+ in 4 of his, or actually 4 straight, and in most of his last 10. So you have 7.7%, 7.7 strikeout average. And what they did was they brought it down and juice the under. So it's taxed down a little bit. I'm not a big fan of the over here. I'm really not, even though there's a few guys in this lineup that he can very easily get. Not a huge fan of the over on this one. I'm actually not a big fan of anything Sanchez tonight, not over under anything. I think it's lined exactly where it should be. And there's not a whole lot of value on this one. I think from my perspective, I mean, maybe you can put the under 6.5 with something else. I don't know. It's just, it to me, this one is lined exactly where it should be. And so that also means no value for me. So, and then Kodai Senga, I don't trust him as far as I can throw him, which since I'm in New York, or no, I'm not in New York, which is 0. The line would suggest an over. I'll put it that way. But I don't trust Kodai Senga. The other thing that I don't trust is I don't trust the Mets pitching staff to not, at the first sign of trouble in like the 70 to 75 pitch range, just go out and get him because they baby him. The other thing is Senga is on short rest. These Japanese pitchers, he started on August 20th against the Nats, which usually he gets 6 days in between starts, but this is on short rest. And these Japanese pitchers typically don't do as well on short rest unless they've been in the big leagues for a while. So like Yu Darvish, for example, can do short rest because he's been pitching in MLB for years upon years. But a lot of these newer Japanese pitchers, because if you don't know the difference between Japanese baseball and American baseball from a pitcher perspective, is that the Japanese pitchers are, by comparison to American pitchers, are really babied. They typically start them every 6 or 7 days instead of every 5. and they have all kinds of pitch counts and early hooks and stuff like that. Lot more pitchers are used, and I mean they really work to keep these guys' arms fresh. So right now, Senga going off of short rest, and his outs prop is depressed because he's been at a 16 to a 17 and a half pretty much throughout his last month, and now we get dropped to a 14 and a half. Not only do we get dropped to a 14 and a half, but we do have a 4.5 and 2.5 for hits and earned runs, so a normal hits and earned runs. I I just don't trust Kodai Senga. I really don't. I don't trust him, and I don't trust the Mets pitching coaches. Sometimes you think that, oh, they got to go get him, and they throw him back out there, and other times, he's like in the 60s for his pitch count, and they're like, well, that'll be it for Senga, and you're like, wait, what? Did he hurt himself or what? There's a lot of volatility, which means that I'm probably just super not interested in anything Kodai Senga, just like I said. I just don't trust him, and I don't trust the Met staff to use him. Cover King saying Scooble 7 and Strider 5 is minus 140 if you wanted that. Strider's back down to 6+ minus 150. Yeah, it's probably going to hover that way throughout the day, I would think. It's probably going to be heavily juiced over 5.5 or heavily juiced under 6.5, which also tells me that there might be some value in just throwing a couple bucks on 6 exactly and getting that at plus 300. Again, lunch money stuff might just get you a few extra bucks if you have it to spare. And Cover King's also saying Bryce Miller over 4.5 hits allowed. Good parlay play. All right. So that was all for the other pitchers that everybody brought up. Let's go through some other leans, etc., that I happen to like today from a money line perspective. Again, only plus money or very close to. The Marlins at minus 102, I think, have value. The Marlins going, even though they're at home, going down. I know Cabrera is starting, but against Strider, being a slight dog is a little interesting for me. So I certainly would look to take the Marlins in this case. I also would look to take the Diamondbacks at plus 155. I'm not saying that they're for sure going to win the game, but I think that there's value in plus 155. Likewise, I think that there's also value on the Rays at plus 108 and kind of sort of value-ish on the White Sox at plus 125. The Royals traveling into town and just coming off of a series where they actually almost blew a big early lead if they pummeled Flaherty early, but they played a long game yesterday. Long game, and used a lot of guys. Used I think 6 pitchers. Yeah, 6 pitchers. Now they're traveling to a divisional rival. They don't have a dominating starter on the mound. Shane Smith has been pitching reasonably well. I think that there's value in the White Sox money line as well at plus 125. For totals, if that's where you want to go, Phillies Mets under 8, I think has value. As does the under 8.5 in White Sox Royals. White Sox line offense is usually anemic anyway, and I kind of talked about the reasons why I would think the Royals, because they had a really long game yesterday against a divisional rival, scratched out a win to avoid being swept, and now they got to go and travel again to a team that, by all accounts, they should pummel. Those are games where teams can falter. So I think that the Royals team total under also has value. The same thing with the Twins team total under. I think that there's a number of things in Scherzer's line that says that we see a start from him tonight as well. So Twins team total under would be another one that I would look at. And I also have Kid Keon asking about Eduardo Rodriguez under 17.5 outs. I don't hate it. I don't hate it. If you can get it at plus money, there's a decent value on it, um, but especially on the road, there's kind of spotty history with him against this Brewers lineup. So yeah, I mean, I would only like it if you can get plus money for it. All right, I think that that will do it for the other looks, sides, totals, etc. Today, let's talk some NFL training camp. All right, so a couple things to go over here. So I talked about Brian Robinson and how he got traded to San Francisco. And when asked, because they have other running backs in Gorendo and etc., you have a a muddy situation. And Kyle Shanahan's answer was, well, Brian Robinson will be the quote two back. Okay, well, two back doesn't really mean a whole lot because Shanahan runs so many different creative sets. And he also doesn't know the offense and is playing behind next to guys that do and is playing behind a workhorse. So I wouldn't put too much stock in that. I don't actually. I had my first large money auction. It's an auction dynasty draft, so we all keep four guys. But I don't even think Brian Robinson went drafted, and I don't think that I don't think he should, to be quite honest. So I would still just steer clear of anybody in that backfield, obviously, besides Christian McCaffrey. So the Browns backfield is another one that has been there's been all kinds of stuff going on. So there's been, I mean, Jerome Ford has been the starter for a while. And then in their preseason finale, the first team offense was out there for a couple series and Dylan Sampson was out there. Quinshon Judkins is still looming in the background after his legal situation or disciplinary situation gets taken care of. But Jerome Ford and Dylan Sampson rotated together and both took about the same number of snaps. Both had about the same number of carries. And then you also had two other guys, Pierre Strong and Amani Marshall, took the field with the first team offense as well. And with Joe Flacco still on the field, and basically everybody kind of carried the same. So what this all adds up to, from my view, is this backfield is going to be an ugly committee until somebody stands out. And it still could be Quinshon Judkins. So for those that don't know, Judkins, so he was in an incident at the Miami airport, and the police were called because he was arguing with a woman that said she was his girlfriend. And he said, "I'm done with you." She didn't like that, came at him. He came back at her, reportedly smacked her in the face. Varying stories on both sides. I'm not judging, alleging, or worried. I'm not going anywhere down that path. But there were charges filed, but the league might still have a disciplinary thing coming. And so because of that, the Browns have not signed Judkins yet. Now, Judkins, once he steps in, I believe has a clear path to starter reps. He has way more juice, way more elusiveness, way more explosiveness than any of the guys that I just talked about. Okay. The only one that might still have any value in deeper leagues, if that happens, is Jerome Ford. But I would honestly take none of these guys. I wouldn't take a single one in a fantasy draft. I don't care where it is. The only guy I would look to take is Judkins late if you have a deeper bench, and then just stash him and hold on to him, because that is the guy that has a clear path to the starter role. The other guy that has a clear path to the starter role is Jaden Blue. So Jaden Blue is the rookie. He's been a favorite of new head coach Brian Schottenheimer and all of his talents. So, and really all the coaching staff has been high on him. The problem is he's been hurt twice in training camp and has missed some reps. So he had a low ankle sprain in the finale against Atlanta on Friday, but he's hopeful to play week one. I wouldn't count on him in week one. If you're going to draft any piece of the Cowboys run game, I would certainly make it Jaden Blue over Javonte Williams. Javonte Williams is going to be, I think, a little bit better version of what Ezekiel Elliott was, where he's going to carry a few times to take the load off, and he's going to be in for pass blocking. He runs better routes, etc. But what I'm saying is, from a role perspective, he's just going to be that, like, eventually he's going to be that 6 to 8 carry guy that, 7 carries, 30 yards, maybe a touchdown here and there. That doesn't pay any fantasy bills, and there's no upside. So if you're taking any piece of this running game, you want to take Jadon Blue. The only thing you have to understand is that he's not going to contribute early. So you got to make sure that you have running backs that can contribute early, and before you go like counting on him for anything fantasy. But him and Judkins are both bench stashes. A guy that I still don't want, despite what his general manager said, is the Chargers GM said on their local, he was in the booth for their preseason finale, and he suggested, they were asking him about Najee Harris, and he suggested that Najee Harris, who's been out since 4th of July after a fireworks accident, injured his eye. He's been to 2 different eye specialists. He hasn't participated once in training camp, even though he's been there. Is that he's on track and should be able to go soon. Now, let's talk about what that means. So first and foremost is that I am a big believer, and I love Omari and Hampton. There's a dynasty draft that I have where we have a rookies only draft right before the main auction draft on Thursday. I have the number 2 pick. I'm taking Omari and Hampton. It's just that simple. And I've been given multiple pretty decent trade offers in that league for that pick. And I have absolutely no interest in trading that pick. I am drafting Omari and Hampton with pride. Omari and Hampton is big. He's nasty. He runs hard, and he is the exact kind of running back that thrives in a Greg Roman, Jim Harbaugh offense. He's a battering ram, and that's exactly what they pride themselves on, and what they like are those physical runners. Now, not to say that Najee Harris is not a bigger guy as well, but Najee Harris doesn't have the juice that Omari and Hampton does. Najee Harris has missed all of training camp. And so while I wouldn't expect Omari and Hampton to get like 20 carries a game right off the bat, I would guess that they'll bring him along slowly. By midseason, I can see him being a 20 touch per game guy, especially after he improves and fully masters the pass blocking scheme for Justin Herbert, because Justin Herbert is of extreme value to the Chargers, both financially and obviously on the field. So I don't care if he's ready for week 1. I'm not touching Najee Harris in any draft. Even the draft that I'm taking Omari and Hampton in, I don't want him. You shouldn't want him. Maybe early he'll pop a TD or 2 here and there, but and even if he does, I would not go gaga over him, because they drafted Omari and Hampton after they signed Najee Harris. What would that tell you? That tells you that they want Hampton. Hampton's going to be their guy. They're going to bring him along slowly, but I mean, I've made no secret about it all season that I absolutely adore Omari and Hampton, and I'm trying to get as many shares as possible for him for this year. All right. I think that will do it for everything today. Let's make one last run through the chat. I want to thank everybody for being here. Thank you to Cover Kings, Mom Who Bets, Ms. Chris, Roger, Berg, WTS Gaming, Kid Keon, J-Main, and J-Main has a question. What about Henderson for the Patriots? Oh, that's a good question, J-Main. It's actually a really, really good question. So here's what I'll say about Trevion Henderson is from the so this kid is absolutely electric. I love him. I really, really do. My issue is a couple-fold. One, if you're doing single season drafts, I think his value is a little bit depressed, because in training camp, he and in the preseason games where the first team offense, he has been in on most every passing down, whereas Ramondre Stevenson has been in on the running downs. Now, is that going to change throughout the season? I think it will, but I wouldn't expect a whole ton of production out of Travion Henderson right out of the gate, but I think that I think that you can take him at his average draft position, and I think that you can stash him on your bench. I don't know if I would even handcuff him and Stevenson, to be quite honest, or anybody else in the running game, to be quite honest with you. But if I had three strong running backs right off, in one league, the one we drafted last night, my running backs are Bucky Irving, Brees Hall, James Conner, and Pacheco. So like in that scenario where I have like those four strong running backs, Travion Henderson's the perfect bench stash. I think in keeper leagues, in dynasty leagues, you have to bump him up at least 2 rounds because there's going to come a day sooner versus later, I think, where Travion Henderson is going to take over as the starter. And I think once he does, I'm not convinced at all that he's going to give it back. For those that don't know, ADP is average draft position. And right now in most snake drafts, most snake redrafts leagues, Travion Henderson's average draft position is in the 5th round. So if you can draft a guy in the 5th round, that's probably your running back 3 or even running back 4, depending on how you draft, but probably running back 3. He's in like flex territory. It's a little high. It's a little overhyped from what I've seen, but you're buying on potential. And the potential that this kid has is just absolutely off the charts. It's off the charts. So J-Main saying my running backs, A-Chain, Henderson, Mason, I assume that's Jordan and Charbonnet. You're in good shape. I think that Mason is going to really surprise you. Mason's going to really surprise you with how much usage that he gets on here on one of my, you'll probably thank me later about guys that I just think I'm like, I think he's going to underperform based on what his ADP is. One of those was Aaron Jones. And it's because of the addition of Jordan Mason. Zach Charbonnet, there have been a lot of reports that he could end up playing a major role in the offense, even if Kenneth Walker is healthy. Now, I still think that if Kenneth Walker is the guy, he's a 18 to 20 touch a game guy, but Charbonnet has a lot of juice. So he has a very, very high ceiling. So the other thing that you could look to do, depending on what rosters look like, is find the Kenneth Walker owner in your league and try to upgrade or get like a 2-for-1 or something like that. Like get another a decent running back and a 4th or 5th receiver for Charbonnet, so then he can handcuff him. With your running backs, I'm not sure that I think you need. I don't think you need to try to go after Walker and go the other way and give up assets. You can probably strengthen your overall depth in other parts of your team if you wanted to, or you can just hold on to Charbonnet because if Walker's been hurt, Walker's been out with a foot injury. He's expected to be back and he's expected to get his normal carries and blah, 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 blah by week 1, but he hasn't been the healthiest guy in his NFL career. And the other thing is, if you watch how Seattle's been calling plays and the formations that they've been using, which makes sense because of their pass game personnel, they're going to run the ball a lot. Clint Kubiak is using a ton of 12 and 21 personnel, 2 tight ends or 1 running back and 1 fullback. And you only do that when you want a power run. And you also do that when your offensive line is shaky as theirs is, and you want extra beef in to clear out lanes. So Charbonnet's solid, man. Charbonnet's solid. I actually tried to get him last night. It's just that I had already stacked my roster in other spots and I didn't have the budget for it for when he went. So Cover King saying I got Mayfield, Saquon, Kamara, T, Evans, Diggs, Kelsey, Warren. Nice. And J-Main, your receivers. St. Brown, Nico, Devontae, I'm assuming Adams. Or maybe that's Devonta Smith. Either way, it's solid. And McBride. That's actually a really solid receiving core. I'd maybe look at that's actually a really solid receiving core. Saying, would you start Mason, Charbonnet, or Henderson? It's week to week. Devonta Smith. Okay, it's still solid. Would you start Mason, Charbonnet, or Henderson? I wouldn't start Charbonnet, not against the 49ers. I'm not sure Mason's ready to contribute. I'd probably go Henderson. Especially if it's a PPR or even a half PPR, definitely Henderson. If it's not a PPR, I think you can flip a coin between Mason and Henderson. And because then Mason is expected to do a lot of work in the passing game. He's also expected to do some short goal line stuff. So Henderson, yeah, okay. So PPR, so it's a PPR. Yeah, if it's a PPR, I would definitely go Henderson for sure. I think that there's going to be more than enough looks out there. The Raiders have made improvements, but so I'm not sure if Henderson gets past. Actually, that's all he's been getting with the first team offense. That's what besides returning kicks, returning punts. That's all he's been getting. He's been in on almost every passing down that the first team offense has run this preseason. So I would actually be worried about the other way. I'd be worried about, is he going to get enough carries, at least to start, at least until he's like fully ready for the load. But either way, I would go Henderson. All right. I think that will do it. Thank you to everybody who was in the chat today. Thank you all. Reminder, this show is brought to you on behalf of the Daily Bread Network on YouTube. Please do subscribe for all of our great best content, NFL, MLB, etc. Follow me at SpinDoc Sports. Like, share the video. We appreciate it. And really, really do appreciate everybody. Thank you so much. Best of luck in all your action. Back tomorrow with 3 more pitchers. More NFL training camp updates. If you have more fantasy questions, bring them. If there's one thing I love talking just as much as MLB and strikeout props, it's fantasy football. We'll see you.